Welcome back to Sorry We're Booked. I'm Jessica, and today I have a special guest host, Beth.
Hi.
Hi. Beth is a very near and dear friend. She is OG book club,
I am.
OG
OG.
friend, like
Yeah.
just in general, over a decade
Yeah.
now. Right now, Lainey is out and about in the world. She's doing her thing. So we have a couple of guest hosts coming up in these next few episodes. And then Lainey will be back in the thick of it. But I brought in Beth because, one, Beth is someone who kind of reintroduced me into fantasy. I know
Yeah.
it's crazy, but you were talking about, I know, like all your favorite books in book club.
Yeah.
I was not in the fantasy realm at all. And you're like, have you checked this out? Okay. So you're kind of one of the big reasons I'm in all this.
You reintroduced me to fantasy with ACOTAR and with Fourth Wing. So
Yes.
comes back around.
Howdy. And she is really great at diving into the world building because I am not.
I dive too deep
I
into
love
the
that.
world
I love that about I love that for you because I am like very, as Lainey would say, I'm here for the vibes. And so I am just kind of going with the flow with this.
Yeah.
We are going to be reviewing Onyx Storm today. A lot of hype surrounding this book.
So much hype.
So much. The countdown leading up to this, I mean, what was it? November of 2023
is when Iron Flame came out.
Oh my gosh. So we are over a year later. A lot of anticipation, a lot of hype coming into this. With that, we have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
Whether they're complete thoughts or not, we're still figuring that out.
Yeah.
We are going with
Much
it.
like this book was.
Thank you. Thank you. Someone needed to say it. Someone needed to say it. So to kick this off, I wanted to ask, okay, so me and Lainey went through and we said, what quadrants are we? Lainey was a healer.
Okay, yeah.
That tracks. That tracks.
for sure.
I, of course, am a scribe, near and dear to my heart. Don't know why that is. But yeah, so what do you think your quadrant would have been?
I feel like I also would have been a scribe because I like going deep into the books. I like the worlds. I like the lore and all of that stuff and finding out all the weird stuff. My husband would be like, you just nerd out on that stuff. Like I listen to all the podcasts of all of the different shows and books and things. And I just love knowing all the information. So I feel like I'm a scribe.
I could see that.
Do I wish I was a dragon rider? Yes.
We all
but
do.
I don't think I would be.
We all do. I think we all there's all this part. I feel like everyone's like, I could be, if Violet can do it, I can do it. I'm like,
or know your bounds, and I can't. No,
I love that.
Know your spot.
Yes.
Just
Pick your
not
lane.
there.
I got that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you would have been a scribe.
I feel like I would have been a scribe.
I could see that. I could see that. Because infantry, no.
No.
Hard pass.
Hard pass.
Healer,
Yeah. No.
not my thing.
Yeah.
Not my thing. I told Lainey that too. I'm like, I would love that. Like in my heart of hearts, would I love to be a healer? Absolutely.
I would love to be a nurture healer that mends things, but no.
And I ain't got time for that.
Yeah.
And then of course, Dragon Rider. Would I have loved that? Yes. Would I have been thrown off the parapet day one?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I think I could have done the parapet. I don't think I would have been like the imminent threat of death every day.
Yeah.
Could handle that. Like scribes are pretty safe.
Look, and they get to read all the time.
To read.
Hence why we're here. Why we're here. Okay, so
Ditto.
with that, you are very much into Harry Potter like me.
I am.
I love that. I love that. So, because I feel like that is also a well-known world. I feel like when you pick your house, like it says a lot about you. What house would you have been?
I feel like I would have been Ravenclaw. Yes. Because I like to do all the setting. Like I went back to school for no apparent reason for teaching, just because I wanted to do more and study more. Again, everyone wants to say they're going to be a Gryffindor, and I'm like, on a good day, maybe.
Yeah.
But in my heart of hearts, I think I'm a Ravenclaw.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. What do you think your husband would have been?
Hufflepuff.
Okay, I could totally see that.
I think Jeff would be a Hufflepuff, but in like the best way.
Yeah.
Like he's a
Hufflepuffs are
Cedric
sweet.
Diggory. He's a Cedric Diggory.
Gosh, I forget he's Hufflepuff.
Yeah,
I totally
he is.
forgot that. He was dating a Ravenclaw. Okay, I
Yes.
thought he was a Ravenclaw. He's
He
a
was
Hufflepuff.
dating Cho Chang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I feel like, Jeff's definitely a Hufflepuff.
I love that.
We'll have to ask him.
We'll have to. Oh my gosh, I would love to hear that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now is fantasy? What are your favorite genres? Like, is fantasy your favorite? Is that kind of a newer one? Romantasy?
I feel like fantasy is one of my favorite. Sometimes sci-fi.
Yeah.
Like Ender's Game is great. Ready Player One is great.
That was a good one.
I like the thrillers. We did a lot of that early in our book club
Yes.
of like
Yes.
someone's murdered, you got to find out, or like something crazy is happening, you got to find out. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see
I
that.
kind of read everything. My least favorite is historical fiction.
Which our
sometimes
book club also does a lot of.
maybe
sometimes.
not historical fiction. That's just historical.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Because historical fiction, like The Nightingale, still one of my favorite books.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic.
Do you like all of Chris and Hannah?
No.
Okay. I don't remember how you felt about the women.
I liked the women.
You did? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Some of them are.
But a lot of them are repetitive.
They
You're
are.
like,
You're
okay,
just
we get it.
depressed.
The
Yeah.
woman's a spy. We get it.
Oh,
Okay,
yes. Yeah.
Everyone's a spy.
There was a time we went through like 4 books in a row
Yes.
of women spies in World War II
Yes.
for our book club. So it's like,
Yes.
it was
So
good
they
at
get
first.
played out.
Yeah.
So I do like historical fiction. I don't think I like the, this is going to sound sad or bad, memoirs or like historical that way. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. You like a little bit of that suspended realism. of
Yeah. I'm like, probable, but also not.
Like, yeah.
You
I get
know.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then with that, so we're in the romantasy world now. We've kind of been in it.
Which is I'm new to. I was into the fantasy because Harry Potter's not
Yeah,
romantasy.
it's not romantasy. No.
As an adult.
Unless you're reading the fan fiction.
Stop.
I know.
You've gone too far. You've gone too far deep into that one.
The way
I'm
you're
deep
about
into
lore,
the lore.
I am
You're like,
deep.
I'd rather have this side story
Yes.
that goes deep
Yes.
into
Like,
a trope.
See, but like that, like Riddick, that could be. I could dive deep
Yes,
into Riddick.
you could dive deep into
Yes.
Riddick. Yeah.
So that's So I get that, but
Yeah.
like, okay, so Harry Potter, not romantasy.
No, as an adult,
was
I've
Avatar
come
kind of
back.
the first one.
I think I read Fourth Wing before I read
Fourth Wing
Akatar.
first?
Akatar.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Because we read it for book club. And then my
We
husband was
did?
my husband was randomly reading Akatar, and I'm like, what are you doing?
I love this. Okay, her husband is an unofficial member of our book club.
Of our ladies book
It's
club.
a female book club, and everything's always like, but what did Jeff think?
Yes.
And the greatest thing is he just gives you a star rating.
Just gives you a star rating with no context.
That's it, which is
Or
more
no,
frustrating.
yeah.
Because he's like, it was a 5. I'm like, I'm sorry,
But
I need
why?
more. I need
Yes.
more. Or he was like, I think it was a 3. Mm-hmm. Why?
Yeah.
No.
And he texts in his answer, even if it's at our own home.
I love
He's
that.
like, it's a 2.5. And then there's nothing
And then everyone's
else.
like, Jeff,
Yeah.
what? Why? And he's
And
like,
he doesn't
no.
show his face.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he's
love
like
that.
a blind partner.
Yeah. Did
great.
you read this?
Yes.
He did.
Or he's reading it currently.
Oh, okay. Wonder how
He's
far in
listening
he
to
is.
it.
Okay.
I
Now,
know.
keep in mind, y'all. I said this on the last 2 episodes. This will contain spoilers. So if you have
Yes.
not read Onyx Storm,
Go
this
reread
ain't
it.
for yeah, this ain't for you. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Maybe afterwards. Come
Yeah.
back. Come back. Unless you're like, I'm not gonna read it, so just tell
And
me
this
everything.
is this is your recap.
Which I'm sorry for because
it's gonna be chaotic. And that's not
Chaotic.
just because we're chaotic people. It's because this book was chaotic.
Chaotic.
I think that's the one word that can like
Yeah.
sum it up.
Yeah, like
Chaos.
I felt that as I was reading it to the point where I feel like you could offer a full-on college course on this because I'm
Yeah.
like, there's so much to
For
dive
sure.
into, and I feel like we just got the very surface level even of it.
Or it's like Rebecca wanted you to dive deeper into it. And it's like, right, but not everyone has the time to dive deep into these books.
Yes, it's also book 3.
Yes.
so I feel like
Of 5.
of 5, yes, and so I feel like with the first book, you're already. For a lot of these series, you're already getting a world in the first book. I feel like for a lot of series like ACOTAR, Crescent City, Fourth Wing, anything like this, I feel like in Harry Potter, the first book, is not going to be
The best.
because
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I'm getting all new concepts. Like I'm getting quadrants for the first time. I'm
Yes.
getting, wings, section leaders. Like I'm learning about different signets, dragons. Okay, that's a lot to take in. Then book 2, usually you're like, yes, this is where
we're going.
it's getting good. So for me in book 3, like you got me. You hooked me by book 2. I loved Iron Flame. Loved it. Book 3, I'm like, okay, I got an understanding of this world. And then I'm reading book 3. I'm like, nope. No understanding.
Who are these people?
What's
what are they
going
talking
on?
about?
I mean, you had to break it down for me, and I still
Yeah.
don't get it because I'm like, all right. And if y'all listen to our Iron Flame recap, we're like, okay, so there's poor Emil, there's
Yep.
Navarre, there's Griffin Riders,
There's Erasha, there's Athbean,
Yeah.
there's Corden, there's King Tari and Takaris, and all of them have the same name, but they're not
they
the
do.
same name.
Yeah. What does Lainey say? It's the same thing, but in a different font. You're like,
Yes.
yes. I get that concept. Okay. Then we go to Onyx Storm, and we are introduced to islands. So we had
We have the continent, which is Navarre and Port-Emil. Dragons, griffins put together. And then you have in the South Sea, because there's a North Sea too.
Yeah, of course.
Fantastic. The Isle Kingdoms. And so there's like 5 main islands and then like a bunch of smattering islands that we don't know much about.
Yeah. Does she ever say a number, or she just say like?
I don't think she says a number.
Okay. There's just an unknown amount out there.
It's kind of like when you look at Hawaii. There's like the 5 main islands.
Yes.
And then there's like little tiny shoots up of land.
Yes.
But like, do people live there? Probably not.
Right.
So.
And that's the hard thing is, so for this book, okay, so again, this is going to be chaotic because it's like, if you ended on Iron Flame, you know that at the very end of the battle, between Venin and the people of Navarre.
Yes.
Yeah. They're trying to put wards up. You know, Violet's mom is the main contributor to putting those wards up. She gives her life.
Yeah. She like powers the ward stone for them to actually like breathe, the dragons to breathe the fire.
Yeah.
Because it has to be like, what did they call it? Imbued. They had to like power up the ward stone so then the dragons could breathe fire on it. That's where the Iron Flame came from.
Yes.
Da-da-da.
Yes.
And she gave her life for it. And her dragon's life.
And that's like Violet and her mom and I don't remember who else is down there.
Brennan. Her son. The son that died but didn't die.
Was Mira down there too? Like was
No,
all
she
family?
comes at the end.
Okay. So
and then she's like, Mom.
Yes. Yeah. And then one that I completely forgot to mention in Iron Flame, because you know there's just too much going on. Sloane was also down there.
Which
did not mention her at all. So if you're joining for the first time,
Sloane was the reason why she was able to imbue, because she has a siphoning signet where she can like take her power and channel it into something else, and Sloane does it again in this book.
Exactly. That's why I mentioned her as like we need to bring her up because we forgot.
Which is Sloane is Liam's sister.
Liam,
the goodest boy.
I love Liam.
Yeah.
We always take a moment of silence for Liam.
Pour one out.
Pour one out to Malik for Liam. So Sloane is Liam's
younger sister.
Yeah. And so we didn't even mention her in Iron Flame, but she is a very important part because at the end, she is the reason that, you know, she feels a lot of guilt, and she'll come up a lot in book 3 of like, she just felt guilt the whole time because she feels like
she essentially helped kill Violet's mom.
But it was necessary.
But it was a sacrifice that like Lilith was,
what do you expect?
Was wanting to make.
It's the least she could do. I already said this in Iron Flame, the least that woman could do.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's where it ends so they're down below in like, I don't know, a chamber. I have no idea. A dungeon.
Wardstone chamber.
I don't know. Somewhere. Meanwhile, Xaden and everyone else in the world is fighting for their lives against the Venin. The book ends with, you know...
Xaden is pulled from the source. So he became Venin because he was trying to give Violet more time to fire up the wardstone.
Because he was at his end.
He was burnt.
Him and Sigil were done.
And so he pulled from the source.
Yep.
Because which you find out who it is in this. I don't remember his name in this book. But you find out who it was. It's a Venin that's been like baiting Xaden for this whole time in the dreams, right? He says, you need to pull from the source or else I'm just going to kill Violet. Right. And so he's like, gotta save her.
Yes.
Pulls from the source. Sigil's real pissed.
Yeah.
And that's how it ends. We find out he's Venin. He goes to talk to Jack Barlow.
And here's my favorite part of Iron Flame is it's his point of view. So the whole book is Violet, and then the last chapter is Xaden's point of view. Which I love getting in his head, you know.
And we got some in Fourth Wing too, and it was like, oh.
I know. I love how they do that. Yes.
Except not all the answers.
As usual.
Yeah.
But I honestly could have done a whole book of his point of view. I wanted Onyx Storm to be his point of view. I thought it was going to be, honestly, because I thought, because it ends with him being Venin, and the last chapter is him going to Jack saying,
like, how do I find a cure?
How do I do this? And so I was like, ooh, all of Onyx Storm is going to be his point of view of like wrestling between, because Jack is also like, you're just,
it's like an
power.
addiction.
It is.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I want to see him wrestle with this. And so I was excited.
Which
so
you do, but like through Violet's eyes.
Yeah.
And Violet's eyes in this whole book are just like, but I love him. He can't be bad. And you're like, but also,
oh gosh,
he did something bad.
Oh, Violet. I can't with her. And so where we start all this is Onyx Storm starts with that exact same scene.
Yeah.
But introduce Violet. It's from Violet's point of view.
Yes.
So walks in and she overhears Xaden talking to Jack Barlow, because like we said, he's back in book 2, and he is Venom, and he's like, what can I do?
Yes.
And scene. So now, opening credits.
So
from here, it's just chaos from here on out.
Yeah. So our reactions to this whole book are just like utter chaos. It starts in chaos, it ends in chaos.
Yeah.
I feel like when you read the book, there's an island where Zanal, the goddess of luck, is there. I feel like we all got one of the gifts of being slapped in the face.
I love that.
And then we said, thank you
yeah,
to Rebecca Yarros
thank you. I'll take another.
Like, thank you for this book and this installment that we've been waiting for, but also, ouch, like what happened?
Yes.
And we're all just kind of like, what?
Yeah, because we have another friend that was immediately
she's like 5 stars. Love it. And we're like, I need to reread it, but also I'm still not sure what happened.
Yeah. I think so on my Goodreads review, I think I literally wrote one sentence that I'm like, for me, it was 3.5 stars. In all honesty, it could go up or down as my brain digests
you like
it.
Marinate. And maybe that's what her plan was, to like throw it all on the page and then just let the fandom sit with it until she's
like, you got another year and a half.
Writing the 4th book. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot happened. A lot of questions were answered and you got a lot of big reveals, but then also
so many left unopened.
Yeah. And also there was so much introduced that just scratched the surface and you're like, okay, but everything just felt unfinished.
Right.
You know, when like you don't do anything 100% and you're just like, oh, but we kind of halved it over here and halved it over here.
Right.
And I'm sure she'll tie up some nice, pretty knots, but
it
was just a lot of like,
See, I go back and forth because from what I understand, like this was originally supposed to be 3 books. And then because of its popularity, she ended up and was like, I'm going to make it 5. For me, I go back and forth with like, I think this could have all been done in 3 books, but it would have left like the islands untapped.
Yes.
Like I think it could have been perfectly done within a 3-book series. With her making it 5 books, I feel like we had to explore this whole other side quest of like these islands. And so it's going to open it up for 5 books.
Yeah, I feel like I loved that we went to the islands, but then also was like, but we're also trying to do this at the same time. Yes. There was too many, because there's like a Venom attack every other chapter, and then we're also going to the islands, but then we also have like Xaden's mom and why Violet's hair is silver, and like just so many different things that pull in, and you're like, whoa, overload. To where like this could have been 2 separate books of like how we deal with things, and then going to the islands and. I don't know. She's got
like
a plan, but
it's
like
just like Iron Flame. Like you said, Iron Flame.
It was supposed to be 2 books.
And I think it could have been. Like, could this have been a 9-book series? I think easily.
Could we have done a 7-book series like Harry Potter?
But like 5, I almost feel like it's at this point going to be rushed almost, because
she's got a lot to answer.
She's got a lot to answer. And like Iron Flame, there's a very distinct break for 2 books. It's like, okay, you're doing all the way up into school for preparation. For torture. And then all of a sudden it's like war breaks loose.
And there's 2 different parts. It's like, hey, this is the first start of your 2nd year. There's a lot of secrets. There's a lot of stuff happening. Break. We leave Basgiath, go to Erasia, and then it's the second part, because now school can't be school anymore because we're in war.
Right. Same with this book.
Yes.
It's like, okay.
But also we went back to school a lot.
And that's
like they would come back from an island and be like, okay, go to class.
Which I can't stand. I'm like, this is so dumb. Get like them
literally
graduated
having my notes
something.
of like, go back and everything's normal. Go back and everything's normal.
I don't understand that. She's like, how do I go back and be normal? You don't. Why are y'all still having school? Like, I just don't understand. But like, so there's the whole premise is, okay, at this point, Venom are still coming. Like, they are still looking to attack. Yeah. They're still trying to get into Navarre, break the war stones down. I mean, take over.
Because they need to, like, feed off of the power. So that's the thing with the Venom is they've gone into poor meal. They're literally draining from the continent itself for power. And it's not like they want to destroy Navarre. They just want that power.
Yes.
They, like, and you see in this book, Jack Barlow is cut off from everything and he starts to like die. And so once you've turned Venom, the only way to like stay alive beyond your normal lifespan is to feed from the source. So they just keep literally going and being like drain.
And that's something that I have a hard time, because
like what's their purpose?
This has been happening for hundreds of
centuries.
years.
Yeah.
How is there still power to drain? I don't know. Like, I feel like this has got to be a very massive world. But they also talk about how small it is. And I'm like,
Well, but we only know of one continent,
That's true.
and there's islands. Like we don't know.
They could have already
Rebecca
tapped to, like,
Yarros
thousands.
apparently is only changes the map as we know things. So
Okay.
like the fourth book map might be a lot bigger.
I could see it.
The
Because
fifth
I'm like,
book
how
map
is there still stuff to suck up? I don't know.
Well, and everyone in Navarre believes that the Barons are the way they are because of the Venin a long time ago.
Right.
But they like died out. And so
Yes.
then it was just done.
Yes.
Little do we know, and you find that out in the first book, that they've been like just seeping in.
Yes. And
whole time.
Navarre's been hiding it from
Yes.
everyone. And so the whole premise of this book is, okay, Venin are still coming. They are
Yes.
coming for Navarre. They're still draining the continent.
We need help.
We need help. We need backup. We need allies. But we also, as Violet, are trying to find a cure for Zayden.
For Zayden.
'Cause
That's like
selfishly-
her secret side quest.
Yeah. She's like,
And
I'm
we need
doing
to
this
find
for
the
everyone.
seventh breed of dragon now. Because
Yes.
Andarna, revealed in the last book, she's a whole new breed called the Irids.
Yes.
And
Yes.
she has a lot of power. And we
And
discovered
there's
in
a
this
lot of
book,
unknown about it.
A lot of
'Cause-
unknown.
Because I don't think
She's the only
anyone
one.
knew. Well, no one knew there was a seventh breed.
Only on Andarna knew.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But like, because they talk a lot about like, oh gosh, not King Tari. So-and-so's guide to dragon.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
So they talk about that quite a bit of like
What is his name? It's one of the professors.
It is.
The guide. I know it's called the Guide to Dragonkind.
Yes,
because
yes.
it's all rhymey.
I can't even think. Like I could make up a name and I'm like, yeah, that sounds right. Like they don't even know
Yeah.
there's a seventh breed.
No,
so,
they
except
don't.
for Indarna.
Mm-hmm.
Like not even
And
Violet knew.
Violet's
until the very
dad.
end.
Violet's dad so new.
Violet's dad, y'all.
And his research. Papa Sorengale and his research.
Look, I don't know if this is a hot take or not. I don't like her dad. I loved him in the first two. Loved
Okay.
him in the first two.
But you don't like how he like sent her on an extra quest. He made it more complicated.
So much more complicated. So
Mm-hmm.
the whole point is they're gonna go and try to find a cure for Zayden and find Andarna's seventh breed and find allies along the way. So as Riddick calls it, this is side quests.
He calls it Quest Squad, and
Quest
I
Squad.
love that. He's like, "Can I be
Oh.
part of Quest Squad?"
Yes. And so they have been tasked by
leadership.
Y'all, there's so much going on.
By General Melgren and King Tari,
yes.
who is the King of Navarre and the General of Navarre.
Here's another thing. There's too much going on.
There's
Here's
too
another
much.
thing. Dean's dad,
Dane.
Papa Ados.
Yeah, Papa
We hate
Atos.
him.
We
We
don't
all
like
hate him.
him.
He is now taking
He
Lilith's
took Lilith's job.
job.
So now
He took her job.
he runs Basgaeth now.
Who
And
made
so
that decision?
he also King Tari.
He's terrible for the role.
He's called King Tari the Wise, but he is
He's
not very
stupid.
wise.
Stupid.
He is not.
So-
He's not a smart man.
No. So you have Papa Ados is now
Mm-hmm.
running the War College, Best Guy at the War College.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Too many names. He is running Best Guy at War College. Hates Violet. Hates Zayden. Is going to try to do everything he can to
And we
ruin their lives.
still don't know why he hates them so much.
Well, because he grew up with her. Like that was her.
Yeah. There's a lot of theories out there of like why he hates, or why he hates like Zayden, because he hates the marked ones.
Yes. Yeah.
And then because Violet goes in with the marked ones and like shares all the secrets about the Venin, he then like has it out for her.
Yeah.
And in Iron Flame the whole time he's trying to kill them.
Yes.
And is really dumb because he goes, every time he tries to kill him, someone says secrets die with those who keep them.
Yes.
You're like, well, duh, thanks,
Yes.
buddy.
Yes.
So
He's
not a smart man.
not a smart man, and some brilliant man, some king, put him in charge of Best Guy at War College. So he's going to do everything he can to continue to break up / and or hope to murder them in some conspicuous way.
Yep.
That's his thing. Then on this side, there's the King Tari and General Melgren that are like, okay, you can go on this side quest because we do need help.
We do need help.
And
But then at the same time, they're like, we do need help, but we don't want anybody from Poromil to come in and like be protected under the wards because Navarre has the wards, Poromil's never had them.
right.
And so says, sorry, you can go on the side quest, but we're going to say who can go and who can't.
Yes, because
And
I
then
mean,
it's
they
dumb.
wouldn't want Violet in a perfect scenario. They don't want her to go. Then we wouldn't have a story. But because her dragon, she gets to kind of run the show.
gets to
She
go.
makes these demands. They bring it, and here's the thing of like, I didn't like this whole portion. They bring in, so they don't want Violet to have her way. They don't want Zayden to have their way. So General Melgren and King Tari are like, you we will assign you who is allowed to do this side quest. So then there's this whole couple of chapters dedicated to that I thought was super unnecessary.
Yeah.
Of like,
because then that all ends up going away.
It does. So
like,
it's like, here's your team, deal with it.
And then they go on one quest to like find a artifact. That was the other thing, is there's like this quest and that quest and it just went everywhere. But they go to do this, and one of the girls
has a
fire signet, fire wielder. She like blasts everything because she gets scared, and it's really windy, and it just like literally lights this whole city up on fire
and kills them.
Kills like the Captain Grady, which was one of their teachers. Kills him, like burns him to a crisp.
Yep.
And then a wyvern comes and like stabs her and kills her. And so it's like half the squad is dead.
Yep.
Except for our main peeps.
Yep.
And then
they're like, okay, well, since that didn't work out,
can I do it my way now?
They're like, all right, I guess you can. You get one chance though. It's like, I saw 0 point in those chapters. I'm gonna be honest. Like, it didn't reveal anything new, did it?
No, because I feel like all it did was make it not as easy for Violet. Like, she didn't get everything she wanted in it. And so I guess that's okay.
I thought it was dumb. I just
maybe the point of it was to show like leadership, as we saw in the other 2 books, is not smart.
No,
they're not making good decisions.
Yes, but
which is also like the trope of every, reluctant hero trope is like, the adults in the room can't make decisions, so this teenager needs to make them. That's where I have the
issue. They're like,
which she is like 20, so
cool. Is she finally 20? That's good, because I thought she was still a teenager.
No, like when they go into Basgiath, they are like 20 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I get it.
So they're adults, but not adults. It's like it's college.
Yes,
college age.
And I would understand, like, as a general and a leader, I'd be like, I'm not listening to this 19-year-old, but they're like, but she's the first lightning wielder of her kind, and her boyfriend is the first shadow daddy of his kind. And
like in centuries, because apparently, and this is where you can go super deep, which is where I go sometimes. There's like the first 6 who are the first 6 dragon riders. And it's believed that they had these specific, really intense powers.
Okay.
And it keeps like popping it in this book of that all the 6 most powerful signets have not been alive together in centuries.
That's right. Have they mentioned the other 4?
No, they haven't said what they are, but you can kind of tell in the book when one comes about. They're like, this one hasn't happened in centuries.
Yes, because there's a lot of common ones, like
fire is
the elements. I think are very common, but shadows aren't considered like
shadows, lightning,
which I thought was weird.
Apparently, it's not actually just lightning. It's like she wields power in general.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And it just comes in the form of lightning.
But also her mom was considered
storm wielder,
a unique one though, wasn't it?
Yes, which you also find out in this book because of the big bad in this book is Theophany. She's a storm wielder. And you find out that the magic that happens, magic holds all things in balance. And Darna says it from like book 1.
Yes.
And that Theophany wields storms. And so the mom manifested the signet of a storm wielder to counteract Theophany.
Okay, because Theophany is a Venin.
Yes.
She's a Venin.
So you find that out in like in the second Venin attack of the book, which is in the first like 10 chapters.
Yes. It's almost as if there's like yin and yang. So if there is a Venin that wields a storm, then there is a non-Venin, dragon rider that wields a storm.
So like when Xaden turns Venin and he wields shadows, there's a point in the book where one of the first years in the squad, his name is so-and-so. That was the thing, is they didn't talk about any of the names of the first years in the second book.
Right.
Because it was like a mental thing for Violet. I don't want to know because they're going to die.
You just know Sloane, really.
You know Sloane and Auric.
Because Auric is the first year. He's the first year. I always forget.
But then, like, in the beginning chapters of this book, they're like, here's all the names that we didn't tell you last time.
And you're just like, who's this? Who's this? Who's this? That's what I've seen on every, like, TikTok and Instagram. They're like, did we all read the same book 1 and 2? Because who is this?
What is
Who's
that?
What's
I think
going
she
on?
just, like, word name vomits them and then is like, okay, bye. And, like, literally never talks about them again.
And then all of a sudden it becomes significant in chapter 58. You're like, what?
Huh?
Yeah. And so
that's
one
of the first years ends up manifesting shadows, like in the presence of Xaden. And he goes, I get it. He's wielding shadows, which is very uncommon because I am now Venin, and he's here to counteract me.
Yes. So I guess
it was
it's safe to assume that if there is a signet that's good, a dragon rider, it's safe to say that it's because there's a signet that's bad.
Yes.
But
I was going to say, if there's a bad signet,
then there's a good one.
But not all Venin are dragon riders. Because you can pull from the source.
But all Venin can have signets?
No. We don't know.
They don't say how we get signets.
They were like shocked that there were Venin with signets.
Yeah, that was new information.
They were just like, ooh, you've got magic. And they thought it was only like a bunch of lesser magics.
They thought it was only, and they also thought it was like only if you were a certain rank
level.
Too.
Yes.
And so that was news to everyone, including the reader, is, oh my gosh, not only are they Venin, not only are they powerful in their own right, but they also have signets. Not just little magics like unlocking doors or stuff like that, but I mean signets. And initially we think that, so there's so in book 2 they allude to a fact that there is like a mentor or leader that wants Xaden.
There's a maven, which is their general, and then there's a sage, which is like below it, and then there's Asum, which I never saw that in the book anywhere.
Never saw that.
I guess I skipped over it, but I heard the word a lot.
And that's what Theophany is, right?
Theophany is like a sage maven.
So, and there's 2 sages, mavens, whatever, right?
There's one that's after Xaden and one that's after Violet.
And so I think of it as the female, Theophany, who wants Violet. The male, they just call the sage, right?
Berman, I think is his name.
Where'd that name come from?
It's in like the very end. It's in like Xaden's point of view. And he's like, and Berman. And you're like,
who's that? But they refer to him as the sage throughout, right? Is it that one? Okay. So the sage wants Xaden. Theophany wants Violet. And that's the whole thing, is they're going like Theophany kind of pops up throughout.
That was the other thing, is either we're on the islands or we're back at school and everything's normal, or like Theophany pops in and you're like, okay, can we pick a lane? What's happening?
And look, listeners, if you are like, I'm not tracking, neither are we. That's how the book felt.
We have the outline, and I'm like, what? You go here, 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 and you do this, and then you get attacked, and then you go to an island, and then you get attacked.
We're not even going that,
and then you go to like place. Rune training, and then you.
Oh my gosh, the runes! Like, oh, okay, y'all.
They alter the ward stone. It's like,
okay, we just had a griffin, or we just had a wyvern attack, and Venin attack. Okay, let's go back to school. Hey, did you do the homework about the runes? Oh no, I didn't do that.
Seriously, like we're not even joking.
No, and they're like, we just lost someone very important to our team. Oh. But did you do the homework? It's like, what?
But how did that physics test go?
Yeah, you're like,
legitimately.
I'm sorry, we just poured one out for Malik again, and now we're back to it. So it's just chaotic. And so, okay, so at this war college, they're preparing to fight Venin while also still learning their class schedules.
I guess they've altered it a little bit to be like, okay, now we're doing all of this with like the knowledge that war not against Griffin Flyers, but against Venin are happening.
Yeah.
And so like sparring practice changes to signet sparring practice. Like you need to use your powers as you're fighting people. Whereas before they would say like, you can't use a signet, you have to fight on the ground.
Right. But now they're like, well, now that we know that Venin have signets, we need to
learn how to use it.
You need to learn how to learn their signet, because that's the other thing which we learned in book 2 is like Venin adapt their fighting styles in the moment.
Yeah.
So now it's like, okay, you're not only having to keep your attacks kind of randomized because they're learning, but now you need to apply that logic to your signet.
And guess who's the professor of that class?
Shadow Daddy.
Professor Xaden Ryerson.
Shadow Daddy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was his way of being like, I can't turn Venin, I can't pull if I'm in the wards.
Right.
So that was his way of protecting himself, which was dumb. That's the other thing. He becomes Duke of Tyrrendor.
Yes.
And then he also becomes Professor Ryerson.
Duke Professor Shadow Daddy.
Yeah.
But I also feel like that was just kind of a side, again, another side quest. Because like anything, the second he became professor, he was now no longer to be in a relationship, allowed to be in a relationship with Violet.
Which Rebecca Yarros has said in an interview of like, hey, so Xaden and Violet are endgame. Like she's said it in interviews. She's said it. Yes.
See, this is where, again, when I read for the vibes,
Where
I'm
I've
like, I
gone,
have
like,
no idea.
I've gone deep.
Okay, so
So,
endgames.
she
But
said
she's
it's
also
endgame,
said she
but-
doesn't feel like it's going to, she's not promising a happy ending, though,
No,
right?
agreed.
She has said
She
that she's not
said
promising
they're
a happy
endgame,
ending.
but I can't promise you that everyone's going to be happy in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So she said that, but she said, how do you keep characters who are destined to be together for 5 books?
Yeah.
Well, you put in conflict.
Yeah.
All of last book was miscommunication.
Yeah.
First book was, do we love each other? Second book was, we're going to miscommunicate, but
Yep.
also can we work this out?
Mm-hmm.
Third book is, we're separated and you've got
Forbidden.
this. Yeah. Fourth book, at the end of this book, he's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. He's
Like,
gone.
yeah, you want a little conflict, throw it in. You want
Yeah.
a little worry, throw it in. You want to be separated, throw it in.
Yes.
Like, how do you keep them still attached at the end?
But it was weird because they were
separate
also yeah, it's like, okay, you're the professor. When we're at school, our relationship is off limits. But also we're on side quests together, and that's when we leave Navarre, and then relationship
then
back on. You're like,
also, there's no magic in the Isle Kingdoms.
Oh,
and
yes.
so he can't pull from the source. So he's
Yeah.
like, that's the other thing. The spice meter on this, like Iron
it's
Flame,
spiced.
spicy.
Yes.
This one I feel like was not as spicy.
But there was one chapter though. I did write
one
there. I was
chapter.
like,
You're like, I paused.
in my notes, I was like, flames.
Flames right there.
I forgot which chapter it was. There is like one, but yeah, there's not a lot of spice, which
because he's worried that he's gonna like drain
Lose
Violet.
control.
Lose control and drain Violet because you can drain people.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
well, and it's because like one of the very first times that they are intimate, I think in this book,
He pulls from the
yeah,
headboard.
headboard. Okay,
There's, like,
He's
fingerprints.
like on a headboard and it's wooden or something, and then as he like lifts his hands, you see like
You
a
see, like,
little
little fingerprints.
Little fingerprints. And he's like, "Oh no, I pulled." So,
And so
we
yeah,
can no
then the whole
longer
book
be
he's like,
intimate.
all we can do is kiss, and that they have some spicy kisses,
They do.
but like there's only one spicy
yeah.
scene,
And
and
it
it's
was
when they're
spicy.
on one of the isles.
Yes, and so
So outside the wards, but also outside of magic.
yes, and so that's the kind of like as far as so I would say this one is probably the least romantic.
Yes.
This one is more fantasy for me.
Or maybe it's not romantasy in like the spice factor, but
Yeah.
then in the emotional part, because she's like, she does the whole thing the whole time, like, I can save him.
Yeah.
Or like, I love him and I know he's not an evil person. Which just because you're Venom does not mean you're evil.
Right, but it
Like
makes
he
it
made
harder.
he made a mistake and we got to forgive him.
Yes, but he keeps doing it. But it's also like,
But he also doesn't know when he does it.
yeah, he's
so-
also like day 1, pulled again. All right,
Yes.
restart. Day 10, pulled again, restart.
Yes.
And so here's the thing: I didn't love Violet in this book. I'm gonna be
Okay.
honest.
Okay.
Like I liked her in the first book. I loved her in the first book. Like, did I think she was a little bit dumb at times? Yes.
I will say I liked her most in the second book.
Oh well, yeah. I think that's for me.
First
that was
book,
her,
I was like,
character
okay,
arc.
she keeps breaking. What's
Yeah.
happening?
Oh,
She just kept
yeah.
talking. I think I talked
Yeah.
about that in book club. I was like, what's her deal? Like, and I
Yes.
didn't know she had EDS.
Brittle-bone, yeah,
Yeah, brittle-bone syndrome. And so it's like,
syndrome.
I didn't know that. And
Yes.
the book club girls were like, she's
like-
got a disability. And
Or
I'm
like, Beth, have a heart.
Girl is weak.
Yes, you're like, I don't get it. You're like,
I don't get it.
Beth. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so like she
Y'all
did
had
do
already
really
read
well.
it previously, and
We
so you
did.
knew this,
We
and I was
did.
like, what?
You're like, I'm just here.
Yeah.
And so, but then in the third book, it was to the point where the reason I didn't like her that much is because of how often she was like, but I can save him. I can,
Yes.
I can make the exception. And also I just thought she was very selfish in this book because,
Okay.
which I get, because again, if that's your one true love, I get it. You want to do
Yeah.
everything you can. But she would lie to everyone around them saying, I'm trying to find a cure for everyone. And it's like, no, you
Or I'm
just
trying to like
want-
figure out how to fight the venom.
Yeah.
Which is true, but really,
She just wanted a cure for
she wanted a
Xaden.
cure for Xaden.
I get it, but also people are dying
Yeah.
along the way, and I'm like, be honest of who you are.
Yeah.
And that does end up being the end conflict in the end of like where the what am I trying to say? Like where the chaos, no, it's all chaotic. Where
Yeah.
the penultimate decisions are made is when it's revealed, like when everyone
Yeah.
else finds out Xaden is
Yes.
Venom.
Yes.
Then it's like that's where all of the not miscommunication, but like frustrations, the tensions
Yes.
really rise.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so you have War College, Venom coming, attacking, trying to get closer and closer to the Wardstones breaking, trying to
Because they're ultimately trying to
and side
get
quest.
to Basgiath where the hatching grounds are.
yes, because
with
that's
the
their
eggs,
whole
because
thing.
yes, and that's where all the magic is. So if they can get to that, it says it in the book of like the venom could feed off the hatching ground for decades, and so they wouldn't need to.
that. Okay.
They wouldn't need to like keep taking over places because they would just be able to hang.
And that's what they're trying to get to the most.
Yes. And so you've got to protect Basgiath and then Greater Navarre.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then they have this side quest. So
to go find the seventh breed and get help.
Yes. To try to find allies.
Because there's just not enough people.
So that's when Violet's squad, which they talk about so much, is split in half. Because it's her and Riddick and anyone else from her squad?
Zayden, but he's not really in their squad anymore.
Zayden and Dean.
Yes. Dane.
Why do I keep saying Dean? Who's Dean?
I don't know. Gilmore Girls.
Oh, Dean. Dane. Okay, I think I said Dean earlier. Whoops. Dane.
Which he kind of is kind of like Dean.
He kind of is. He is. Oh.
A little bit. A little bit.
Good. That is. No. So he is on the quest squad. I'm just going to call it quest squad because that's what Riddick does. Because and the biggest reason, even though it's still kind of, is he evil? Is he good? Like, you know.
Dane?
Yeah. Oh, because they say that a lot. You can't trust him. Like, you know, they're constantly like, he made one mistake in my mind.
One, I don't think he honestly knew what he was doing either.
Look, I'm Team Dane.
Yeah.
Not Endgame. I think he's a good person.
Yeah.
I genuinely think he's a good person.
I think he was just trying to protect Violet, and he thought he was doing that, but his dad had ulterior motives,
and he didn't.
And he used him. His dad used him.
He did. So they're a little hesitant to have Dane on Quest Squad, but ultimately the reason they need him is because Dane is very good with a lot of different languages that are forgotten or unknown or just not very prevalent. So they're like, hey, we're going to these islands with all these different languages. We need to bring Dane. And Zayden's like, I hate that, but okay, I get it. So they got Dane, they got Zayden, obviously, because Scale and
Shadows.
Yeah, Shadows and Scale and Taryn can't be away for too long. Neither can Violet and Zayden. You got Riddick because Riddick, and I love Riddick in this book so much.
I
feel like
he's there at the beginning though.
Well, no, he's not on the fake
He's not on
squad.
the very,
He's not on the one that the general forced them to have. Until everyone dies and Violet's like, all right, I'm gathering my own troops. Yeah. Riddick approaches her and was like, I need to be on this squad. And she's like, why? No, you got to stay behind with Sawyer. And he's like, I need to be with you because every time one of us in our squad is not with you, you almost die. Yeah. But when one of us is with you, you have a better chance.
And then he like turns an orange inside out to ice.
Yes, that was
He's
cool.
Like, here's why.
Because
I'm cool.
Yes, because he's an ice wielder, but he's like
he's like honing his power. Yeah, he's like showing I'm not just an ice wielder. I'm like a real good ice wielder.
He's super funny the whole time, and he's super unserious the whole time, and so that's why no one like not pays him any mind. Like he's just kind of the brawn.
He's there.
Yeah, he's like, oh, he's tough, but he's like Violet, I need to go with you. I need to be on Quest Squad. Let me do it. And he's like, take me seriously for once. Yeah. And then that's when he does. He has an orange and he freezes it. And she's like, how'd you do that? He's like, I sucked that.
Or I turned the water in the orange to ice. And he's like, Violet's I can do that with water in anything.
And so Violet's like, even with people? He's like, in theory, yeah.
And they're like, I could do that.
All right, you're in. And so he's on the Quest Squad. So they do leave Rhiannon and Sawyer behind. Sawyer because
doesn't have a leg.
He doesn't have a leg. He's still in the hospital. He's brooding. He hasn't gotten on a dragon. So they keep him behind. And Rhiannon's behind because she is squad leader. Yep. She has to be there for everyone else. Yep. So that's kind of where the book throughout is. You have half of her squad at the War College, half of them on Quest Squad. Quest Squad will go to an island, come back, go to an island for a couple of times.
They go to Deverelli with Halden, the Prince of Navarre.
Enter Halden.
And her ex-boyfriend.
I called it in book 2. I think a lot of people probably did.
He's a knob. He's a douche canoe. He is not a good person.
Mama thinks he's pretty, though.
Yeah.
Apparently he's hot.
He's pretty, but he's also pretty dumb.
Yeah. Pretty dumb.
And he goes because he has to represent Navarre.
Yes.
And so that's not fun because he's also not a dragon rider, so he gets carried in a basket.
I love that. I've seen photos online of like, what do we think that looks like? Because griffins are talked about as not being very big, and a griffin carries the basket.
Griffin can carry the
dragon,
basket.
So you're like, it's just like, I think of a hippogriff. Every time I hear griffin, I think of a hippogriff from Harry Potter. Yeah, I think of that size. So I'm like,
he's just in a little, and there's only one person per basket, so he's just like in his own little basket, hanging out like a little kitten in a basket.
Yes. So they originally take him.
Yes, because they need him, and then he screws it up on the first one.
Yes. Oh, because a lot of these islands, the other reason is a lot of these islands won't even let you on it unless you're royalty.
Yes.
And at this point in time, is Zayden, the very first island, Zayden's not... Is he already a duke?
He is already duke.
Okay.
And remember, Auric is also Prince of Navarre, but the rest of the world doesn't know that he's the Prince of Navarre. He's hiding.
He's hiding.
His real name is Cam, and he's Halden's younger brother.
Yes. And he is, at the beginning, he is with Rhiannon and Sawyer at War College.
He stays
He's
home.
the first year. So he stayed at home.
And they wanted to like hide him from his brother because he decided in book 2 that I don't want to be in the family business. I want to be a dragon rider because my family knows about the venom and aren't doing anything.
Yes. Yes.
So
that's kind of where it splits. So you got half of Violet's squad at War College, the other half going on Quest Squad. They go to the very first island, which is Deverelli. And
they get more of Papa Sorrengail's research.
Yeah.
From like a bookstore.
At Deverelli?
In Deverelli.
Oh, yes. Because
they got the first thing of research. Dane helps them. That was another side quest that was like
at Deverelli. They go to Deverelli and then what was the side quest they have? How did they get?
So there's research from Violet's dad that they know is there, and then they know like her mom kept whenever he died.
Yes, because you're supposed to burn everyone's belongings. Everything. So she hid it. And then when Lilith died, Dane's dad is now the general. He gets her office and like quarters. In their house, like essentially.
Yeah, they're part of Basgiath. That's where they live. And we know the research is in there. And they say, hey, we need this because he knew things about Andarna's breed that we did not know.
Yes.
He's got this information. So they get Dane because only family members can go in there. They get Dane to get the research and bring it back to her. So that was like I feel like in the second book, a big thing. Like we need his research. Was that in the
second book or was that in the third?
It was in the getting the research?
Yes.
In the third.
Okay.
Because it happens after Lilith died.
That's right. Okay.
So they she could have gotten the research the whole
time.
Did she know
Lilith was there?
Yes. She like tells Dane where to look. And you're like, Violet.
You had all this time.
You had all this time.
Why would you leave it there? Yeah. Okay. I don't know. So then in third book, and so this was kind of a test for Dane too, because he could have lied.
Can you do this? Can you not rat us out? He gets it, gives it to her. It's coded, whatever. They open it and he figures out, I need to go get more information. And her dad says, there's a bookstore in Deverelli that has the rest of my research. I had to hide it. So they do a side quest.
Yes.
Another side quest. To go get the research. They get more research, but while they're doing that, Halden steals stuff from the king of Deverelli.
Yes, because and
messes it up.
He steals it because he was like, "This was originally ours," and they were like, "No, but you traded it."
Again, there are more questions there because they talk about how we've not had any contact with the Isle Kingdoms in centuries, but yet this trade was made in Halden's lifetime recently. So you're like, questions, those don't get answered.
Right.
You just move on to the next page.
And Deverelli is all about, because each island is known for like one of their gods.
One of the gods.
Like God of wisdom, God of love.
Deverelli has a god they're attached to.
They don't, but they believe in your word is your word or something. Is that like, it's something, there was something with this island because that's why they were like, we're done with him. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was something of like, I can't remember what it is. And Violet knew. She was like, no, with this island, it's, I don't know.
A whole piece I totally forgot about.
Yeah, there's a reason because someone had come beforehand. I think this was the island.
It's like you have to tell the truth at all times.
You have to tell the truth at all times. And the person that came before them was like, was this the island where the person that came before them, maybe centuries ago, they wanted something in exchange for dragon eggs? Was it this one?
Oh, no. I think that was Umbriel. They wanted dragon eggs.
Okay.
And they said, no.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. So this one is your word is your word. And so when he was, so you had to be very specific. This was it. You had to be very specific of what you asked for, how you asked it, how you answered it, your intentions.
Yes.
And so when Halden did that, well, one, he was dishonest. He stole back, but they were like, all right, we're done. You're kicked off the island, whatever. So I'm going back. Here's why I don't like Violet's dad in this book. This is the first step. So I believe it's the journal that they get from, it's coded. It's not just coded like a little, I don't know.
Mnemonic or anything.
No, it's like you need to guess this 5-letter or
it's a 5-letter word for your first, I think it was like your first love.
Your first love. And so, of course, and if she gets it wrong, there's
like
vials
the book destroys.
In it. Yeah, it's like self-destruct. There's little vials in it that just either way it or ink that I'm like, why would you do that? I get it. Like, why not?
Maybe
give
it's like
him
a test.
Key?
Yeah.
Okay. that would have been fine, right? I would have been like,
it's like a really long, like it took up too much page space.
right. Also, if this is your only copy of the book,
Yeah.
and you're the only person with this knowledge, why would you make it to the point where if your daughter, who you've never told any of this to,
Yeah,
doesn't figure it out perfectly, it's all going to be destroyed. And then what? And a book? Because the venom will take over the world? I'm like, that's where I had a problem of like...
And the books that they get
I know.
at the island are also coded in the same way. And they say that, and then they're like, and then we open them, and it's like... you spend so much time talking about the first one to open.
Right.
There were a lot of things I felt in the book were just unfinished like that.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe with a purpose, but also some of it was minor stuff like that of like, hey, if you're going to go in deep on one, go in deep on the other ones.
Right. Why not make it something easy like, hey, only... why make it a riddle? I don't know. I know she's supposed to be a scribe and her dad like takes after her dad's own heart, but why couldn't it have been like blood?
Heart of a writer, the mind of a scribe.
No. I'm like, just... Hey, only blood can open it. Here, slice your hand, put it on there.
Only
we're done.
Soren Gales.
I'm like, that makes sense to me. Yeah. Because you're like, okay, then only my wife or only one of my daughters or, well, my son is dead, whatever.
Yeah.
Only dead, they can open it. Dead, not dead. Only they can open it. That makes sense to me. Making it a 5-letter word for your first love, and if your daughter gets it wrong,
ends up being
dragon.
Like, yeah, it ends up being Lilith's dragon.
Dragon's name.
Yeah.
Because you're like,
I'm Sir.
Again,
and you have to know that.
Because Lilith is 5 letters. Dragon is 5 letters. Like, there was a lot of things. Viole. Not Violet. Asher.
Asher, his first name.
Yeah. There were so many things that were 5 letters. She's like...
But then also, like, Halden was 5 letters, which was Violet's first love. But there was too much. It was too much.
She was like, it's dragon, but not just any dragon. My mom's dragon. You're like...
Because it was probably written before the kids were born. There was some reason of why she determined it should be Lilith's dragon's name.
It bothered me. Like, I was like, okay, that's fine. But he did it all of his books like that. And again, I think that was the most ridiculous fail-safe. Like, if they get it wrong, the book self-destructs.
And then we open the books and there's like not much information shown about them. Of course, Violet's reading them, so she has this information. But like, we don't get much more.
No. This is the book though that describes each island, right? Like,
it does.
It's like his journal, like his travel journal.
Like, he went and traveled the islands. That's
he did all of it. Which
when?
That's what she asked that. She's like, when did he have time to do this? So he has like, and it's used throughout the book of like in his journal. He's like, okay, now you're in Deverelli. This is what I discovered here. Use that as you may. But it's all kind of cryptic, and that's where I get bothered too. Of like, just say what you want to say. This is how you succeed on this island.
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z. It's like, make sure that you know. It was just all riddles. I'm like, I'm over it. Like I would have been a scribe. I would have been over it. I'd be like, we're just all gonna die. I'm like, we're just all gonna die. I don't know. Because I don't got the time or mental energy or capacity. People are dying left and right, and I gotta do this Sudoku puzzle for my dad to get the next riddle. I'm like, no, just say it.
Does it equal 9? I don't know.
So that bothered me. So anyways, they have this journal. And they're like, okay, this is what we need to do to try to find a cure. So they go to Deverelli. Halden, which is her ex-boyfriend, messes it up. I do love, and I think
they don't get any allies out of it, but they also do all stay alive.
Yes.
And then they go home and they're like, Halden, you're cute.
You're out.
And that's when Ara comes out of the shadows and is like, just kidding. I'm Cam. I'm your brother. I'm a dragon rider. I'll go on this quest to be the mouth for Navarre.
Yes.
And we learn he knows all the languages, and Dane is...
Poor Dane. Every time they go to the island,
he's not needed.
He's got like his translator dictionary. He spends like all the days leading up to it
yo
studying.
habla español.
Every
and Ark's just like fluent.
Yes.
And you're like, oh,
Dean's like, why am I here? And
he literally
Ark's
says
like,
that.
He does. He's like, why am I here? And I'm like, for tension? I don't know.
For looks? I don't
honestly, know. I feel like I feel for Dane. I keep seeing Dean, don't I? Dane, I feel for him because I like him.
Like his gift he gets slapped in the face and then goes, thank you. Like
he's just
like the whole book. He just keeps getting slapped in the face.
The whole book, he's like, I'm a nice guy. We don't like nice guys. I got a cool pal. We don't like. It's like poor Dane, man. Like, why is he in this book? I felt that when he was like, why am I here? I'm like, I don't know either.
Maybe we'll get that question answered in book 4 or 5.
I thought he was going to be a lot more.
Same. I thought he was going to be more present.
I thought like the triangle was going to start triangling with like the love interest.
She says she hates love triangles.
and yet she keeps throwing them. Like she had, not really. She does jealousy triangles. Like Kat in book 2 was Xaden's ex-betrothed. And so Violet is constantly jealous. Then in book 3, Halden comes and Xaden's jealous.
Which also, a jealous Xaden.
Love it.
Here for it.
Love it. Lainey wanted that for the whole book. She was like, I just want this to be... And it was perfect. Like,
it was good.
Loved him.
He like boned up to him a couple of times, and you're like, oh.
Or he would just do something like slap him with his power, like from across the room. He's like, oops, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, you have no power.
And I love the way he talked to him.
Yeah.
I did too. He's like, you might speak for the king, but you don't speak for me. I'm like, oh yes, Shadow Daddy, love him. I loved him in this book. Yeah. Like I really actually liked Xaden in this book. Even though it was weird.
Did too. He just wasn't on the page a whole lot sometimes.
He wasn't. He really wasn't because they kept, so after Deverelli, they're like, Halden, you're out. Arik, you're in. Yeah, he's like, I got this. Yeah. They start going to different islands because at this point they're like, because the general and Papa Ados are like, hey, after you go to every island, you need to come back. They quickly realize that can't happen.
We can't do that.
No, it's inefficient. And also, our dragons cannot... No, Griffins can't handle it,
but also it's a waste of time.
It's a waste of time.
Because it takes like a week to get there, a week to get back. It's just...
They're like, let's just keep going.
Like, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, let's just keep going because time is of the essence. And they're like... And because they do that, they know that there are going to be... Not court-martialed. What is it?
Yeah, I mean,
is it court-martialed? It's like...
They're like going against what they were told to do.
It's like... Not tyranny. What is it when you're like... When you rebel against the kingdom?
I just had it in my head.
I did too.
Not a traitor.
Yeah. I feel like it starts with a T. I don't know.
There it goes. That's what happens when you have kids.
Yes, I know. So it's essentially like that. It's like not like AWOL, like court-martialed. You're going against like not tyrant. I don't know. Anyways, so they know that because they are going to just keep going on, they know that when they get back, they are immediately going to be like enemies of the kingdom kind of thing. So they're like, you know what? We're all in.
Let's do it.
Let's just go. So
then they go to Umbriel, which is has a temple of Dune, goddess of war,
which is what Navarre is all about, right?
Well, no,
that's who they pray to.
So what they also figure out in the Isles, which was crazy when you look at it, is all of the Isle kingdoms are like, oh, we pray to this god, but the continent does all of them and also prays to Amari, which is the god of gods. So while they call it, the continent, its actual name is like Amarius or something like that.
Yes, because it was almost like a curse word. Every time they go on the island, they're like, oh, look at the they would say,
or
Amaris, and Violet's like, who is
what
that?
Is that? And they're like,
you.
Oh, yeah. We called it the continent because we think we're the most important. It's kind of
like America.
It's kind of like America. I was just about to say it. It's like America.
America.
We're like, we're the most important, and all of these other countries don't know what they're doing. It's like they thought the same thing. It's like the continent, and then these isles, and it's like, no, you guys are called Amari.
Whatever it is.
Because you worship the god of all the gods.
Yes. And they're like,
so they have all the gods. Yeah. So Umbriel's the Temple of Dune, which is the goddess of war. And this is where we find out that Violet's silver hair that everybody thought was maybe she was half venom or something because it like colored drained.
She has a streak though, right?
She has like half.
Okay.
Like her hair has always grown where like the top half is brown and the bottom half is silver.
Ah, okay.
Like no matter if she cuts it, it grows the same way.
Right.
And so they've been like, okay, how does that work?
Yes.
And we find out
so much in book 1 and 2.
She goes to the island and she's like, everyone has silver hair.
Yes.
This is crazy.
Yes.
And they have like tattoos on their forehead.
Yes.
And she's like, what's happening? And she sees somebody that looks exactly like her with like half dyed hair. And they figure out that she was dedicated to this temple and to be a priestess of the goddess of Dune.
Right. And that's what turns at your hair, right? Yeah. Once you're dedicated.
So she was half dedicated.
Yes.
By her dad.
It's almost like she was dedicated, but she didn't go through like confirmation. It's like, okay, you say you're going to do it. And then a couple weeks later, all right, then. And they're like,
she finds out like her dad did this and they pulled her out because her fate was still unknown. And meaning like she was going to turn venom. So they didn't want a priestess that could be venom. So they were like, nope, you're done. And then they sent her back to Navarre.
But we also
this was
against her mom's wishes, though, right? That's why, like,
pissed.
Yes. Because she was like, forbid it, and Asher was like,
we're going anyways.
And so he did it.
Yes.
And so that's what they find out. At this point, have they met Theophany though? Like, yes, they met Theophany, and Theophany has silver hair.
So like in the first Venin attack, she sees a Venin that has silver hair, which we later find out is Theophany.
Yes.
Which the word Theophany is like, I went deep. Yes. Which actually, I just knew this because the Bible recap and being a Bible reader.
Yeah.
It's the visible manifestation of a God. And in like the Holy Bible, it's whenever like Jesus shows up or God shows up as like the angel of God, or the burning bush is a theophany because it's like with Moses. Right?
Look, I do love that she has some elements like that.
So her name smart. Theophany means it's the manifestation of, and we'll say in this realm of a god. So maybe she is the goddess of Dune.
Okay. Yeah, maybe? But we didn't know that at the time.
We didn't know that at the time.
We don't know. We're like, okay,
she
there's
starts
something
to put
with
it
her
together.
Name.
Yeah. Violet starts to put it together of like, okay, so she doesn't have relation to me. We're both dedicated to the same temple.
Yes.
She used to be a high priestess of Dune. And that's why apparently Theophany's lived for centuries. She's hella old.
Yes.
Because she says it a lot.
Too. They're like, there's something about her. She has like
looks
eyes
young,
that are haunting,
but she has like old eyes.
Yeah, you're like, okay, I don't know how that works, but okay, unless they're
Yeah. So they go to Dune and they do like a hand-to-hand combat. They still don't get any allies,
right?
But they're not dead. Yay.
They
go to Hedotus, which is Hedion, goddess of wisdom, and this is where we find
Zayden's mother effing mom.
Yeah, the whole first 2 books, they keep talking about Zayden's mom, and he's like, I won't go there.
Because she left at when 10? He was 10. Okay, on like his birthday. Yeah, like on his 10th birthday, she's like, here's some cake,
and then she left. Yeah.
Yes.
So
and it's like surprise, like they walk in and there's a king, and then
she's like married to that island's duke or whatever.
Yeah, like second in command, not.
And she's like started a whole new family.
Yeah, she like walks in and she's like, "Mama," and she's like, "Baby,"
and that's like how the chapter ends. It's like, "Mom," and you're like, "What?"
Violet's like, I didn't know I was gonna meet my boyfriend's mom today. It's like, it's serious, girl. This isn't, And yeah, she has a whole other family. She's got 2 sons, and so Zayden has these little half brothers out there
that they don't really meet.
Yeah, but like that she's very in love with, and he's like, oh, that hurts. It hurts to see.
Well, and apparently there was like, since they pray to the god of wisdom, they're like, well, it was smart of us to ally ourselves with Tyrandor,
right?
And so we made this marriage contract. They try and make a marriage contract between him and Zayden and Kat. And they were like,
wise.
Yes.
They're like, this is the wisest choice. You should
and
go
that's
and
where
do
Zayden
that.
goes, yeah, you can bring up a marriage contract. And her last name is Sorengale. That's with 2 R's. And you're like, oh, put a ring on it now.
Yes.
And
please. It's so good. And it's so good. And
but they're also just hinting at marriage the whole time.
They are. There's a lot of that.
Hard.
I will say, like, because just like her other 2 books, each chapter opens up with like a little snippet. Yes. Oh, there you go. Epigraph. And the one, I don't know if it's the one after they meet the mother or right before, where it's from Zayden's dad's point of view. He was a very heartless man. He was like, marriage is not for love. Like, you've lost in life if you marry for love. Like, marriage is
for strategy.
It's for strategy. So so the dad, the opening of the epigraph of one of these chapters is like, you marry for strategy. If you want to find love, love your children. I was like, dang, he's cold. And then it's like the mom enters and he's like, why would you do this? And she's like, it was strategic. I guess the contract was only for 10 years because
until an heir became 10 years.
Yes. Then she was free and she was like yeeted the same day.
Because she was also like, I don't want to be a part of a rebellion.
Yeah. But why didn't she take him? What was the reason?
Because he was the heir. Like, the whole purpose of the contract was like, you have to stay until an heir is 10 years old, so she could not take him with them because Finn Ryerson was like, I need my heir.
She was just terrible. Like, there was
she
no
was like okay with it.
For her.
She didn't stay for him.
Yeah.
It's not that she left, it's that she didn't stay.
Yes.
For him.
So while they're at this,
they get like mixed poisonings.
I love that. Yeah, because they're the island of wisdom.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to get them as allies. And the king is like, here, come to dinner with us and we'll talk strategy. We'll see if they're testing them the whole time.
Well, and that's at every island they get tested. Like, Deverelli was like, can we be honest?
Yeah.
Unreal was like a hand-to-hand combat.
Yes. You had to fight.
The
toughest person,
Yes,
and they ended
which
up
ends up
having
being like
3.
the queen. Yeah, they tricked him. At every island, they have to do this test, and then at every island, they also get like tricked
Yes.
in some way.
Yes.
This island was wisdom. They're like, oh, we're going to give you a test, and the test was, we're actually going to poison you.
Yeah, and see if you're smart enough. Or
See if you're smart enough to figure it out.
I don't even think it was a test. They were like, we've already deemed you unworthy, so
Yes.
we're just going to go ahead and kill you
We're just going to go ahead and kill you.
And frickin', it's not
Garrick.
Reddit, Garrick.
Garrick
is
eats
like,
it.
ooh, cake. And
Yeah.
Violet's like, wait, everyone, wait.
Yeah.
Because they hadn't eaten their cake.
They hadn't eaten their cake, but it was
very obvious.
They like put it all together of the mom knew that Xaden was coming.
Yes.
Because they had already gone to some of these islands,
Yes.
and the word had gotten out. But then whenever they got to that island, everyone pretended like, this is such a surprise.
Yes.
But then they made a comment. She made a comment of like, I've been hoarding chocolate for weeks.
Because that's his favorite.
It's his favorite chocolate cake, whatever.
Which
and
traumatizing. You make him a chocolate cake on his 10th birthday, abandon him. The first time you see him again, you're like, I'm going to make you a chocolate cake, baby. And
Yep.
he's like, you don't think that's triggering?
Yeah.
That's very triggering, Mom. So yeah, she had been hoarding because it's a hot commodity. Like it's a rare commodity to get chocolate. And so she had been hoarding it for months. And they say that in the conversation. I think that's where Violet
clicked
whoa,
it and was like, oh, you want us to eat? And then they had like conveniently forgotten all of the
royals.
Hedonist people's cake.
Like, where's
and
our
like,
cake?
Oh, where's our cake? And so
I
she's
thought
like,
theirs
stop
was
eating.
way too obvious. It was
Yes.
like, where's our cake? Oh, well, y'all go ahead without
Like
us.
I saw that from a mile. I was like, please don't eat that.
So that's
cake.
why I'm like, Garrick, you're an idiot. Because like literally every visitor had it, but everyone on the council didn't. So he goes ahead and eats it. And Violet immediately is like, wait, it's poisoned. And they're like, you idiots. Like, we had already deemed you unworthy.
Yeah.
And Violet's like, well, you better give us the antidote because
I also poisoned you.
I poisoned you. Like, I guess when they walked out, they gave them all cocktails
They
or
gave
something.
him, she had brought like leaves of tea.
Yes.
And was like, hey, this might remind Xaden of home. He might like this.
Yes, she tricked him
and
already.
like the tea is actually poisonous unless you drink this antidote. So all of the squad drank the antidote.
And theirs
and
is
they
like
were
a
sipping
terrible.
on tea. And theirs is like they literally vomit to death.
I think,
like, vomit
they
up
literally
blood.
like vomit
Yes.
to death. Yes.
They don't actually die. She gives him the antidote, I think.
Oh yeah, but it was gonna lead to death.
Yes.
And he was like a game of chicken. The king was like, I'm not giving you the antidote. She's like, fine, then you're just
I'm
gonna
not giving you
die.
yours. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll lose one and y'all all die. And Xaden's mom took it too. Like everyone took it.
Yeah.
And I think that was like Xaden was like, this is hot. Like
Yeah.
he was like,
That's
all
my
right.
girl.
He was
Oh,
like,
she's
come on, Mom, I
smart.
don't care. But anyways, so they do end up saving Garrick. Now the king didn't give Garrick the antidote, did they?
They did. It was
I thought
kind of,
they
like,
just
weird.
found the chef and like
they
bullied
did.
the chef to
They
death.
did.
Like she did it on her own.
That's true.
And then they end up fixing Garrett, and she gives him the antidote because she's like, as a act of faith or something. Like I don't know why she gave it to them.
And I think she was like, we're going to make a deal with you for allies. Or we're also going to like not tell people what happened here.
Okay.
Like we
Yes.
outsmarted you and
Yes.
you were supposed to be wise.
Oh, because that's their thing. They're like,
Yeah.
But they didn't end up allying with him, did they?
No, they just said like, we'll keep this secret.
Yeah. They're like, we don't want to be known as the
Yeah.
unwise because that would ruin our street cat.
So at this
cred.
point, they've not found the seventh breed.
Nope.
They don't have any allies.
Nope.
But no one's died yet. Well,
No.
Halton's guard died.
Oh yeah, who cares?
She got
Oh,
eaten.
because that was his girlfriend. That was his
Yeah.
little side piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did die. Who cares
died.
about her? That's just another
had it
name that
coming.
you don't need to keep in your brain.
Yeah, we don't even remember it.
She was there and back in a second. And he like, oh, that was right. They like served up her
served
body
up her
parts,
head. Yeah.
and he had to like, eat, I don't know. It was
He didn't have to eat
anyway.
anything. They
No.
just like had a head on a platter, and they
And
were
he
like,
was like,
"Oh,
This is disgusting. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's what you get for being dishonest. Oh, that's right.
and a cheater."
Yeah, because yeah. So, anyways, Island 1, done. Island 2, everyone's still alive, but you know,
Yep.
Xaden's mom is there and back, and you're like, okay, cool.
Yep.
I will say, I do have in the back of my mind for future books that he does have blood relatives alive. I don't know if it'll come back. Don't know, don't care.
Well, and they
but he
said so
does
much. They said so much, like in first two books of, "I have no siblings. I have no siblings.
Yes.
I don't know where my mom is. I don't want to talk about my mom." And you're like, okay, right here we
He's
have
it.
your mom and half siblings.
Yes.
That could come back.
Yeah.
But also, like, is someone in Navarre also a sibling? Like, they always talk about how close Bodhi looks to him. Like,
Yeah.
is Bodhi secretly his
Yes.
brother, but
Yes.
also is he brother
Right.
at the end?
Right. You don't know.
We don't know.
You don't know. So they are just leaving
Yeah.
the island of
Hedonist.
wisdom, and then they're
They
going
go to
off.
Zenalia,
Zenalia.
which is the god of luck, Zenal, which they pray to all the time. There, They do a card game of like you pick a card and you get some sort of gift. They call them gifts.
Yep.
And you have to be thankful. And not react. And so Violet, being the leader, cannot react to anything.
Which
so they get random
I was
gifts.
confused by that. I thought no one could react, but it was like
Violet.
just Violet.
Because she's named the leader. That's also like the main trope in this is she's a reluctant leader. This whole book.
Yes, the whole time.
She doesn't want to be a leader, but she is a leader. And she has to deal with it.
Yes.
Like Harry Potter. Deal with it. Okay.
Yeah. But he does it so much better.
He does it. Yeah.
Anyways, they go to this island of luck and they have this card game. And and this is the first time. So they already found out on the Island of Wisdom that like, okay, they're getting advance notice. But this was the first time that everyone was excited, right? No, they land into like this Coliseum,
like arena, and everyone's
waiting, and they're like,
but they also have some sort of magic there.
Is this the first island with magic? This is the first time
and they can like
discover it.
Yeah, because the whole time, that's the other thing, is the whole time they've left the continent, nobody's been able to talk to their dragons. That whole bond, except for Violet, Taryn, and Andarna.
Yes, them three can talk.
But like
even Xaden's cut off.
Yeah, like and the dragons can't talk to each other because they need magic. So I believe it's here that there is a little bit of magic, either that or it's Unreal.
I thought it was Unreal. I don't think it was this one yet. Because that's the other thing they reference is like, because the whole point is the reason why Xaden and Violet can be intimate, the reason that Xaden is happier in general is because there's no magic. There's
nothing for him to pull from.
Yeah. So it's kind of a trade-off. But we also find out, so it's like, okay, well, why wouldn't you just want to live forever without magic? Well, their dragons are in pain.
Yeah, like physical pain.
Physical pain from being away from magic. And they kind of find that out. Like, Taryn never told her in the beginning.
Well, and it's like you can see when they're flying from island to island, they'll be like, oh, and they're kind of faltering or they're getting tired quicker or whatever.
And then she's like, wait, is this causing you pain? They're like, well, yeah.
You're like, well, duh. But
she's like,
we're
okay.
good, I guess.
So that's kind of the conflict is like, oh, I could be happy forever with Xaden away from the continent.
And he would be fine.
But they would lose their dragons would be in pain. Like, okay. Yeah. So that's kind of the, do we love magic or do we love each other more? It's like, okay, this is a temporary fix. Let's enjoy it while we can. So I don't think they have magic on this island yet. This is the God of Luck, and there's a whole arena, and they're like, oh, we got to play this game in front of everyone. They're like, yes, and you got to be grateful. You got to say thank you. Like, be happy. Don't react.
So they get dumb things like a box of nothing, a broken compass. Dane gets slapped in the face.
Bam.
They get a cat. And they name him Broccoli.
That one was like no one wants broccoli. Why would you name your cat broccoli? Because no one wants it, but it's good for you.
I don't remember all the other gifts, but the one major one is somebody gets an arrow, and it's literally like he gets an arrow to the chest and dies.
Yes. And that's the thing is like they weren't terrible. Like Dane's was the worst one at that point because like Kat got a diamond necklace. Like she got.
Oh, I don't remember that. Yeah.
She got like expensive jewelry.
Yes.
And I think she wasn't the first one. Violet was the first one, right? No.
I cannot remember.
I don't remember. But it was like the very first gift was like a diamond necklace. You're like, dang, or ruby, whatever. And then it was like a box of nothing. And then, so it was like, oh, these aren't bad. It was like good, bad. But the bad was a slap and the bad was a cat. Like they were like, oh, we don't want this. And so it's like, okay, very last guy. They're like, we're going to get out of this relatively unharmed. Like if that was the worst of it.
And it was Traeger.
And it was like a shot.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is when you pulled the card, it wasn't like Ace of Spades. It was like almost a riddle.
It was a picture.
Yeah, it was like, I think of like tarot reading.
Like Dane's was a hand and he's like, oh, I'm going to get a high five. And then he got slapped in the face.
And this one was an arrow and
literally before he turned around, like he got shot with the arrow.
He turned around with the arrow out
and
of his
then
chest.
Violet had to be like, thank you.
Yes.
But there they got allies.
Yes. But here's the thing. And here's why, for me, this part was heartbreaking. It wasn't just some rando. This guy that got the heart through Traeger, yes. Kat was finally getting over Xaden because she's like obsessed with him. Finally getting over Xaden. Traeger's been in love with her or obsessed with her for
who's a fellow Griffin writer for like her whole life.
For her whole life.
Loved her.
Finally,
she finally gave him attention.
She was like really falling for him. He was an awesome guy. Not only that, but like her, his Griffin had a relationship with another Griffin.
Not that, but like the bond between griffins and dragons are different.
Yes.
Like a dragon can survive a rider's death, but a griffin cannot survive their flyer's death.
Yes.
So
when he
Traeger
got in,
died, then you just have this whole scene where like the griffin like slowly dies, and it's just heartbreaking.
Yes.
That happened in Iron Flame though too.
Yes.
When one of the girls fell off the cliff.
Her griffin
also died.
also fell off. I don't know why. I thought Traeger's griffin, like, was in a relationship with another griffin, because I remember there was another griffin wailing.
Possibly.
Like, there was something with that.
Possibly.
Because
I just remember the scene.
Yes, because they always talk about how like there's always these last two griffins that were flying together, and that was one of them. Not because they were weak, but because like where there's this one,
where this one is, that one went.
So, anyways, so Kat, I mean, I don't remember who it is, if it's Riddick or Garrick, but someone like immediately comes up behind Kat because she's like reacting.
Yes,
and so
like,
Violet's
calms
like
her down,
almost in shock of like, I have to respond well, because they're all like looking at Violet like, if you respond, do they all get murdered, or it's just like no allies?
I think they'd all die.
I thought they would all die. Maybe not. Who knows?
Maybe I got too intense about that.
Who knows? But I thought like if she reacts, like we'll kill you, or whatever.
Or at the very least, you won't get allies.
At least, and they're like, we didn't. And so Violet like is having this whole internal dialogue of like, don't make his death in vain. You've made it this far. If you say thank you and accept it, you get allies. You lost him, but like, don't make it in vain. Yeah. So she does it. She does it, which is just, I thought this was actually, for me, I thought this was one of the better scenes written out in this book, where like I felt it. I didn't get emotional with this book. I didn't cry, but I was like, that scene, I was like,
I cried.
That hurt. You did?
Not at this part. Oh, well, maybe at this part. I can't remember.
Oh, I didn't cry with this book. I was heartless. I'm sorry. I was heartless with the book.
I cried at the very end.
Okay. Oh, I mean, that's good. This is the scene that got me. If I were to pick a scene in the whole book, surprisingly, it was this one, because I was really getting excited for their relationship of like, this is cute, like good for her. And like, I'm always for the underdog. When he loved her his whole life and then he got the shaft, I'm like, that it hurt.
That did hurt.
It hurt, but they got allies out of it.
Yes.
So then, okay, so this is, and it's not just like 100 people. This is like thousands of people. Thousands. Like, is it 100,000?
I don't remember, but
they
also
said a number. I just can't remember it.
Like, we don't see them actually come to their aid yet.
No.
Like, that's going to be in, I guess, other books, I'm guessing.
No, but they do, and I can't remember the numbers. I want to say it's 100,000 because they talk numbers at some point of, hey, we found out that the venin had taken out of town and they killed like 50,000 people. I mean, it was something like astronomical. You're like, in matter of minutes, they killed a town of 50,000. They're like, well, okay, we now know that we have 100,000 allies, and that will help us sustain this kind of attack. Like, they do get strategic. There are numbers. So for me, when I heard these small islands, I'm like, oh, these are not that many. Like, if you're talking dozens and dozens of venin who can take out towns of 50,000, you need a lot of allies. So when they said the number for this island, I'm like, okay, substantial. I mean, it's substantial, where I'm like, okay, one death for all this. Like, it's heartbreaking, but like, okay, you can start getting some momentum. So boom, moved to that island. He died. Kat is just in catatonic state for quite some time. I mean, just, understandably move on to another island. Do they go back to the war college at this point, or they just keep going?
They go to the smaller group of islands because they're like, we got to find the Irids. Yes, we're not really finding allies, but we do need to find.
There wasn't one more island between there?
There is another island, but they don't go to it. Loisum.
So then
maybe that's like where the god of death, Malik, is, but we don't go to it on these pages.
So then maybe the Island of Luck did have magic, because there was.
It might have been Unbriel, though.
Maybe.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know. We'll go back and reread.
I don't know, y'all. I'm telling you,
there's too much.
There's so much.
Yeah.
So then they go on to this other island.
They go to one of the smaller islands, and then they all split up and say, okay, we got to track all these other ones, which are just tiny islands like Hawaii, little tiny ones.
Little tiny ones.
Looking for Irids, and Riddick and Violet stay, and the Irids, this is where some people have said, like, hey, it's either really amazing what Rebecca wrote or super careless, because the Irids just come to them.
Yes.
They're like, hey, we've been hanging out and following you guys the whole time.
That's right.
Because they're chameleons. They can like blend in with the scenery. And so they just kind of show up.
Yes.
And then it's like dragon story time.
Yes. And it's weird. It's weird because everyone leaves. And so, because they said, okay, at this point, it's easier if we break up into pairs of twos and all go to different islands and report back, because this is taking too long. The only reason that Riddick and Violet stay behind is to, and
explore that island.
Well, and to let Traeger and his griffin burn. Because,
yes.
you know, with all the other ones with Malik, you just like,
yes.
and so
They
Kat
said
goes
they
on to
would
this
watch
whole
the
thing.
fire.
Yeah, Kat goes on to this whole thing of like, I refuse to bury them at the island of
Where
luck.
they left.
Yeah, because we don't want
they're deaf to be there. Or
yeah.
something.
So we're gonna go here, and you have to stay. And that's where I think it's more careless instead of thoughtful, because it's like, okay, we set them on fire. They're you know, burning. Let's all go. And Kat's like, no, you must wait until the fire goes out. I'm like,
Really?
like for honor or something. And they're like, okay, well, me and Riddick will stay behind because also Indarna's tired, or not. Yeah, Indarna's tired. And so we could also use some time to rest. Okay, fine. I'm like,
Yeah.
very convenient. That was convenience number one. Convenience number two is Riddick is going off, you know, I don't know, doing his thing. And she feels
This is where you find out like Riddick and his dragon Atrum are like just pranksters to each other.
love
And they
that.
like, I loved Riddick in this book because of that stuff. Like
Yes.
you find out more about that.
Yes.
You find out more about like different dragons and their riders and their like bond.
Yes. And I do love that, because Violet will make references of like, I don't understand their relationship, and Taryn's like, you aren't supposed to. It's
You're not
unique.
supposed to.
Yeah. And so
They're
Riddick
like just
and
like two bros hanging out,
They
like
are.
playing pranks on each other.
it's like,
and
I'm gonna
really funny.
get you soaking wet when it's cold.
Yes.
Like that.
He's
kind
like,
of
oh, I
stuff.
put itching powder in his scales. And
Oh my
just
gosh, that was
different stuff.
terrible.
Yeah.
And Violet's like, I don't understand.
I don't get it.
I don't get it. So versus I've always seen Indarna and Taryn as like happy sunshine, grumpy sunshine, dad.
Yeah,
daughter.
or like the dad, and like he's like, oh, I'm stuck with these two daughters that don't know what they're doing.
Yes. They're just cute.
And very
like,
different. And like Sigale and Zayden's just like respect,
Yes.
and like we're doing this
Like,
together. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
there's
get
a
some.
lot of that.
Yeah,
And so then,
fun to
so
see
Riddick and I guess his dragon, I don't know what they're doing, but all of a sudden, and
like a group of Irids come and
well, she
reveal
like
themselves.
she feels like this huff of steam.
Yeah.
Oh, because Indarna's sleeping, and so she's right in front of her, kind of waiting. And she gets really protective of Indarna because she can tell. She knows a dragon is there, because she's like, I feel the steam, because it smells like sulfur. So she's like, a wave of sulfur hits her, so she gets protective in front of Indarna, and all of a sudden these dragons appear, and it's how many dragons? Five,
Six
dragons just appear, and she's like, "What?"
My
and that's
people!
where I think Violet's dumb. I think Violet's dumb because she's like, "I'll protect you, Indarna." I'm like, "What are you gonna do?"
Nice try,
versus
my
them?
friend.
Yes, and Indarna's like, I'm happy," like, you know.
Yeah, she's
sweet.
She's really excited, but then it's like that was also heartbreaking. Of she's telling her story of like, I was saved and I was hatched for this reason, and I picked Violet for this reason. She's like super proud to tell the story, and like you can see that all of the Irids are just disappointed as they go on.
Yes.
Because we find out they're a breed of peace and not war.
Yes.
And so they end up saying, well, we don't want you to come back with us because
You failed.
And we're not going to help you because you failed, because you've let Violet turn you into a thing of war because of her sword tail.
Yes.
Because she wanted to be like Taryn and have a sword tail.
Because they can pick their tail.
Yes.
And so the other thing here,
And they all have feather tails.
they all have feather tails.
So then you also think about, we always thought feather tails were just the babies, but is it actually this entire breed?
It's a choice. It's like a
And it's a
peaceful
choice.
And the one thing that is unique with this breed as well is that they can talk to anyone. They can tap in. It's like
you
a
find
screech.
out they are not just like the dragons in Navarre pull from the source, which is the continent.
Yes.
Unlike Venin, it's for some reason that's different.
Yeah.
But this breed of dragon is like just pure magic.
Pure magic.
And that's why Indarna could bond with Violet, because she was already bonded to Taryn.
Yes.
Because they are pure magic.
Yes. And, so
And
it's
while
just
while
interesting.
their bond also worked when there was no magic, is because Andarna was the magic source.
Exactly. That's the only reason, because that was a weird thing, is like the whole time you're still getting Andarna and Taryn's communication, but none of
Nobody
the other
else
riders
can.
are. And so it's just unique, because all of a sudden they're talking about how when the dragons make themselves visible, there's this really high screech of like, I don't know, I think of like a sonic wave of just like, it's painful. And then all of a sudden it's like the reception changes and they're like, all right, we're connected.
We can all talk.
Yeah, Wi-Fi, dial up. And so then the dragons can talk to her, and she's like, you can talk to anyone? And they're like, yes. And so then they have, like you said, story time. They're like, explain. And we come to find out that like Andarna was left on the continent purposefully as a test.
As a test to the people of Navarre, to see if they would actually become good and not good, but like be peaceful.
Reformed,
And so when they've come to say, hey, we need allies to protect us from this venin and to help fight this off, they say, oh, you haven't changed. We're not going to help you.
Right. Because
we're not going to tell you how we defeated the venin the first time.
Yes.
We aren't going to tell you if we can cure them.
Yes.
Because that's the other thing. Andarna can roast a venin.
Yes.
Dragonfire does not kill venin, but Andarna's does.
Yes. I forgot that because
And so they were like,
that's why she's like, bring me with you.
Yeah,
I can do this.
I can do these things. And yeah, so.
Because the original Wardstone, all the dragons were there. And so Violet knew, like, once they found out, it takes 7 dragons to fire a Wardstone, she's like, okay, so there used to be a 7th breed here, and something happened. They either died off. No one knows. Everyone thinks they died off. Then they come to find out, no, they're out there.
But we also don't know what island they're actually on.
Yeah, they don't know what island because they came to them.
They came to them. We don't know where they actually are.
And that's what they did. They're like, you know what? Y'all are like the humans are a lost cause. We're going to fire this Wardstone and abandon, but we're going to leave Andarna behind as an egg to test it. When she hatches, we'll see what happens. So it's almost like, I don't know. I think of like Noah's Ark, like you send out a leaf and if it comes back. So they did that. They're like, okay, we're going to leave Andarna.
It's also
Peace
like
out.
how Papa Sorrengail like gave the research and was like, here's a test. Let's see if you can figure it out. It's like, oh, okay.
Yes. The one thing I don't understand is, were they planning to come back for Andarna, or were they always hoping Andarna was going to come back? Like,
I don't know.
Like, they're like, you failed. I'm like, she didn't even know. I don't know.
Right. She didn't even know she was being tested.
Yeah. And poor thing, like, because, they turned her as a war machine instead, like, she can't join them.
Yes.
I'm like,
but there are some of them stick around to be like, I want to hear more of your story.
Yes. 3 of them.
Yeah, 2 or 3 of them.
3 leave, 3 stay.
Yes.
Because it's like an old grumpy dragon, and then 2 others that are a little bit like, we're neutral. Like, you could win us over technically.
Yeah.
We'll wait.
But then Xaden comes up because he's done hunting his islands, and they see that he's a venin.
They feel it. Like, because it's not even until he looks up.
Flare his eyes and make it red, and then like take it away.
Yes.
And they're like, well, peace out. We're done. You guys have brought a venin into this. We're not okay.
That's how they do it. Okay.
And then Riddick finds out that he's a venin.
In that minute. That's how they figure. Because I was like, how do they? Because he was there for a while and they were fine. The thing is, so at this point, Riddick has come up and the dragons have already talked to Riddick and Violet. I'm like, okay, we're happy here. Like, whatever. Then Garrick and Xaden walk up, and again, everything's fine. They could see that they're winning the dragons over. And then they tap into Xaden and Garrick's consciousness, and that's when they're immediately like, they all pause and are like, "How could you? How could you?" And Xaden immediately knows. Like they say something of like, I don't know what they say. Like, you're not filthy, but like you're tainted.
But along
or
that
you're
same
the reason.
line, like you've tainted this bond or something like that.
Yes, like how could you? And then they're like gone, and they peace out, and they give no chance. Like, it's shut down everything. And at that point,
Xaden feels real bad.
And he gets really broody. He's like,
no amount of chocolate cake will fix that.
No, he's just like, I'm the reason for this. I'm the worst. And so he really starts to pull away from Violet at this point because he's just like, had I not walked up, we would have had, the Irids, or at least these 3. Like, they were willing to listen. Maybe Andarna would have been reunited. Like, he was like, I'm the reason. If I had never walked up, never done this, so he broody leaves, whatever. So the Irids,
but then
it's over.
They just go back to Basgaia.
Well, yeah, because what do you do? They're like, okay, because the Irids said there is no cure.
Yes,
they flat out tell her. She's like, can you just tell me? And they're like, there is no cure.
But they also didn't. They asked, is there a way to fight the venin? Like, how did you defeat them 600 years ago? And they basically say, they don't answer it.
Well, no, they said, clearly we didn't if there's still a problem.
Yes.
They're like, well, we didn't if there's still a problem. And
but they also didn't tell them how they, like, kept them at bay for so long. Like, they didn't answer it.
They were just jerks.
They were just unhelpful.
Yeah. They're like,
we're
the people of peace. And I'm like, you're just assholes. Like, I'm like, I'm sorry. You're
a bunch of incandescent assholes, okay?
You're very, holier than thou.
Yeah.
That's how I view it. They're just like, we are so much better than you.
They made Andarna feel so bad because she was like, I'm so proud. And then she was like, basically they said, you're an abomination. And like walked away.
They flat out were like, oh, Andarna.
She was so sad.
And man, and poor Taryn, he was, because I mean, it's like his daughter, and he's just, and he can't do a thing about it.
Can't do anything.
And she's also teenage broody. She's like, don't ruin this for me, Dad.
She's like, where's a sheep?
Yes.
I'm hungry, but also I'm mad.
Yes, I just love it because even Scale, when she walks up, Mama Scale, she's just like, don't ruin this for me, guys. Like, I just love how she talks to them like they're her parents. Like, you're embarrassing me in front of my friends.
Yeah.
And so anyways, that happens, and at that point, they're like, all right, We visited 4 islands. We got 1 island of allies. We
have
found the
to go back.
dragons. They're not willing to help us. There is no cure. What else? There's nothing else to do here. Our time on the islands are done.
Yeah.
Let's go back
And then it goes
home.
back to a montage of like, oh, we're going back and we were
got
in trouble,
homework.
but also we didn't get in trouble.
Yes. Yeah.
And
They
then-
immediately go there and they're like, oh, okay, be prepared. We're going to get court-martialed the second we step foot. And then
they're like, we're happy you're home.
Yeah.
Go back to class.
yeah.
Thank you for listening to part 1 of our Onyx Storm review. Join us next week as we wrap up part 2 of Onyx Storm and also discuss our theories of what we think is going to happen. Thank you again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and send to your friends. We hope you enjoy, and thank you for listening to Sorry We're Booked.